Hi, I wanted to introduce a recent purchase of mine and some projects that I have planned for the future. So I picked up a 2017 Subaru BRZ and I sold my 2007 Mazda 3. I always really enjoyed the Mazda 3. I thought it was a nice sporty car, and going back and forth between that car and the Miata was a lot of fun. But once I picked up the Boxster, it just felt a little bit out of place. It almost felt like a school bus in comparison. So I thought it was time for something a little bit more sporty, a little bit more serious and capable. So I picked up the BRZ, and I originally set out to find a 987 Cayman. I thought that would complement the Boxster nicely, but in the end, I just couldn't justify the purchase. A lot of the cars in my price range were 15 years old, and I really didn't like the idea of replacing one 2007, which I just sold, the Mazda 3, with another car that was 15 years old. And in order to get a Cayman in my price range too, that would involve a car with 2 to 3 times the mileage of the BRZ. And it also commanded a substantial price increase over what I paid for that car, around $10,000. So all those things kind of added up against the Cayman and made it hard to justify. I really didn't want another project car when I was already devoting time towards the Miata and the Boxster. So I went with the car that I thought would be the smarter choice, the more reliable choice. But for the past couple months, I've had some reliability issues with the car, which is why it hasn't been featured on my channel yet. There are some pretty awful knocking sounds coming from the engine bay. I thought it was rod knock and that the engine was toast, but it ended up being seized idler pulleys, which were replaced once I had the car towed to the dealership. While they were there, they also found that the cam seal was leaking, and they were able to seal that up with some RTV. And I thought it would be smooth sailing from there on out. But when I just had the oil filter off a couple of days ago, I found a chunk of RTV in the oil filter. So right now, I currently have the car sitting, and it's going to be going back to the dealership after the holidays. But hopefully, in the New Year's, I'll be able to drive the car a lot more like I had planned on it and enjoy it. And I'm really looking forward to coming out with a new car review sometime in the spring. And then you see here the car sporting some old WRX wheels with some snow tires. So I hope to review those Blizzak WS90s once I get some mileage on them as well. Now, onto the fun stuff. I'll be coming out with a video detailing the install of a oil cooler off the new generation BRZ and GT86 that comes standard. And then I'll also be installing a clutch spring, hopefully give the clutch a little bit more of a feel. And I picked up a catted header as well, and I'll be installing that and flashing it to stage two. I'm still on the fence about picking up an overpipe just because I'll be in there installing that header anyway. So I still have to make up my mind on that one. I'm really enjoying the Boxster. I just haven't been driving it a lot because of the weather. I completed a rear suspension refresh in the late summer, and hopefully this spring I'll be able to do the same with the front, and then I'll come out with a review of that car on this channel. I did install some racing pedals just to help with some heel toe downshifting when I drove the tail of the Dragon. Still just working on getting the spacing right with some aluminum washers, but I hope to come out with that review here shortly as well. Onto the Miata, I have some frame rails and a butterfly brace that's been sitting around, just haven't gotten around to install because the first thing I have to do is sort out the exhaust. It has a Racing Beat exhaust on there now, and it's just really loud. It drones a lot, so I have to figure out if I'm going to be repacking that or picking up a OEM replacement. Once I have the carpet out for the frame rail install, I'm going to replace it with a nice red carpet out of a 1993 LE, and then also replacing the door cards with some nice red ones and some aftermarket floor mats as well, and that should complete the look of the interior. Then I'll wire up some oil and water temperature gauges, and then install a Randall cowl to make up for the increased weight of those braces. Then I'll also be doing an updated review for that car. So hopefully next year I'll be able to do a comparison review detailing all three, the BRZ, the Boxster,